This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. And Donald Trump, President Trump, has brought 3 American hostages home from North Korea in advance of his sit-down with Kim Jong-un, which is reported to be in the offing and perhaps to take place in Singapore. President Trump with Melania on the tarmac in the wee hours this morning.
Yes, it was it was a hero's homecoming. They had, 2 hook and ladder fire trucks with a huge American flag showcasing the arrival of the aircraft. President Trump, Melania got on board first, spent some time with the 3 Americans, and then they deplaned together, and it was a big victory. People were cheering.
Proudest achievement will be, this is a part of it, but will be when we denuclearize that entire peninsula. This is what people have been waiting for a long time. Nobody thought we could be on this track in terms of speed. So I'm very honored to have helped the 3 folks. They're great people. I got to speak to them on the plane. These are great people. They've been through a lot, but it's a great honor. But the true honor is going to be if we have a victory in getting rid of nuclear weapons.
And I also thought it was nice, even though the parents were at the State of the Union address, and this was a moment to celebrate the 3 hostages coming home, that President Trump remembered Otto Warmbier.
A great young man who really suffered. And his parents have become friends of ours. They are spectacular people, and I just want to pay my respects.
And it's one of those things because it's not only respectful of Otto Warmbier and his family, but it also signals that President Trump remembers who he's dealing with.
Yep.
Just releasing the 3 American hostages, who should have never been hostages in the first place, of course, doesn't change who Kim Jong-un is, doesn't change what his regime is. And I think that was a way for him to gracefully signal that he hasn't forgotten who he's dealing with.
Well, what do you think brought the world's worst human rights abuser to the point where he released those 3 hostages? Do you think they're on the brink of bankruptcy? They need food.
They need electricity.
They need money.
Right. We'll put that question to our friend, Mike Gallagher, host of the Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays 9 to 11 a.m. on these airwaves. He joins us now. Mike, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
My morning show prep. I'm watching you guys every morning. I see Dan standing there at that microphone. Amy, I don't know how he does it. My goodness, you sit down like a normal person to do the radio show, and I get so much wisdom from you guys and enjoyment. When I'm following you when you're off gallivanting in the waves with listeners and going on all these great trips.
Yes.
When I grow up, I want to be like Dan and Amy.
There you go. Damie. An important moment for the president, for this administration, including in what is potentially in the offing, the bigger victory the president referred to, the denuclearization of North Korea, if that could be verified. But nonetheless, you bring hostages home. I don't care what president you are. That's a great moment.
Watching the president be humble is very uncomfortable. It's a very awkward thing to see the president slough off questions about winning the Nobel Peace Prize. And he says, people want that, but what I want is peace. These moments, guys, where you have a president that cannot really be criticized about anything, coming right on the heels of all of the other drama and garbage. To absorb as much as we, the American people, are absorbing is pretty overwhelming. It's all the bad happens over a period of 24 hours, and then you get the next 24 hours, and you have this example of peace through strength. Amy was asking, what led to this? You got a president taking this guy on, calling him Little Rocket Man, threatening him with fire and fury. You hear all these threats and these promises that this president conveys. That's what, this is like peace through strength in the Reagan era on steroids. And so you see leadership, you see world leadership. Who is going to find fault with a president trying to achieve peace in the world? North and South Korea fighting for decades and decades. We've never seen anything like this before. Then right before this happens, you've got the president withdrawing from this lopsided, dangerous, frankly, Iranian nuclear deal. You have all this great economic news, all this great employment news in the country. I mean, there's so much good that, of course, is accompanied by so much bad, and it's just this drama that I guess we get overloaded. But it was really nice to see just a few minutes, as you said, Amy, with that great greeting. And to see that historic, patriotic hero's homecoming with the president there, and important moments and hitting the right tones, remembering Otto Warmbier. You're right, Dan. These are not. This is not a nice regime, and the president knows that. And yet, how about that? We got 3 prisoners home without having to exchange 5 terrorists. How about that? We didn't have to send over a boatload of $150 billion to get three Americans to come home. I mean, it's just it's been a pretty good 24, 48 hours, guys.
Well, he's Kim Jong-un wants something, and he's going to want a lot of money to get rid of those nuclear weapons, don't you think?
You're right. Of course he does. But this is where the art of the deal comes in, and this is where a pretty shrewd, savvy commander-in-chief is going to have to navigate these waters. This summit is going to be historic. It's reportedly going to be in Singapore early June. We'll see where it is. The president said this week it's not going to be in the DMZ as expected. Yeah. But hey, this is where prayer comes in. You pray for peace. You pray that things are going to go well, but you trust but verify. You have a very wary eye. We know we can't trust these guys, but we've gotten a lot farther. There are millions and millions and millions of people in the Korean Peninsula who are sleeping a little easier tonight knowing that just maybe this guy is going to get reined in. And the credit goes to President Trump. It's fascinating to me to watch the efforts to chip away and take away credit that is entirely due him. I saw an interview last night on Fox News. Somebody was talking about the record low unemployment rate in the black community in America. It's the lowest it's ever been in history, on record, lowest it's ever been. And I watched the young guest on the TV show say, yeah, well, when that's Obama. Obama gets credit because in his administration it was 17%. The guy literally said on national TV, now that it's at 6.6, Obama dropped it by 10 points. Now, here's a perfect example. This is Trump's economy. These are the economic initiatives of Republicans in Congress with the tax law, and there's a guy saying Obama gets the credit for this. So, some days you just can't win. You just got to keep your head down and keep supporting this country, putting this country first, and hoping and praying for the best.
Yeah, and the 40-year average, actually, black unemployment, 45-year average is 12%. So, I mean, for it to be at 6.5% now is it's something to note. There's no question, but it speaks to the press corps. And Sarah Sanders took some heat from the press yesterday about Trump's comments about rescinding press credentials for some journalists. And of course, anytime that he makes a statement like that, you get all of the, how dare you impugn the Fourth Estate? You're trying to eliminate our First Amendment freedom of the press, and so on and so forth. And yet the entire press corps was represented on the tarmac when he met the hostages. So, it seems to me like Trump blows off steam by attacking the press with some of their unfair coverage, but there's no evidence to back it up. So the press hysteria actually serves to just further delegitimize them.
It's Lucy and the football. It was Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football. I mean, he puts out a tweet and watches them get hysterical. I think he sits back and chuckles. Now, having said that, I don't know where there's a constitutional guarantee that April Ryan gets to sit in the third row of the White House press briefing every day.
Right.
Where's that in the Constitution? All this hysteria about the First Amendment, or the free speech rights being abridged. There's only how many reporters are in there? 30, 40? There are probably thousands of reporters that want to be in that White House press briefing. Is that censorship? Nobody's suggesting censorship. To hear the pushback that the president got, and I got some yesterday when I said, hey, they should pull the credentials of a reporter who's not really in that room to ask legitimate questions. April Ryan, who wants to attack Melania Trump and say she's not culturally American. That's a smear and insulting her. They want to yank her credential. We're not going to have a constitutional crisis. April Ryan can plop down in front of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and cover her smears on Melania all day long on CNN. There's no censorship issue here whatsoever. But to hear the drama, the melodrama, the pearl clutching from people who go there and think that the world is coming to an end because Trump is jerking their chain a little bit and saying maybe I'll pull credentials was really, really comical. Nobody's advocating censorship. Even the reporters from the New York Times acknowledge how accessible this president is. He talks to them too much, probably. He goes around and talks to all these guys. So there's no censorship issue. Once more, typical overreaction sparked by a tweet, which I believe is by design. He just loves to see the disruption that he causes when he throws one of these little bombshells out.
I'm very protective of our First Lady, Melania Trump. What did April Ryan say about her?
She said that, and Amy, I am too, because I think this lady is put through so much just by who she's married to. She had this beautiful initiative to try to protect. She wants to protect kids from opioid abuse, bullying, and all that, online bullying. Of course, the obvious, attack is, oh well, you're married to the Twitter bully and all that. April Ryan on CNN said, well, Melania really isn't culturally American, but she's getting there, and she's learning the ways of America. What, because of her accent, April?
She speaks 5 languages.
5 languages. This is her 5th language, and she's an American citizen, and she loves this country, and that's what I mean. I mean, if the president wants to get protective of his wife and say, April Ryan is writing a book. You go to her Twitter page, you can see she's hawking a book at the top of the page. That's what these guys want. They want their 15 seconds of sound bites and showboating and grandstanding in the White House press briefing room. Again, pulling a credential from the White House press briefing room is not censorship, and it's not abridging the right of a free press. Nobody's advocating censorship, certainly not me, but they don't get to. That's a privilege to sit in that White House every day. It's not a right.
He is Mike Gallagher, host of the Mike Gallagher Show, which is appropriately named. He is on 9 to 11, following us each morning on these airwaves. Mike, thanks as always for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Love you guys. Keep fighting the good fight. Take care.
Thanks, Mike. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.